If you're a landlord, are you concerned about the Renters' Rights Act? Well, frankly, you should be. There are thousands and thousands of landlords who are leaving the market because of the implications. And I've been in property 30 years. I remember 2008 when the market crashed because of the global financial crisis. And I was telling people, my students, look, as long as you know what you're doing, you should absolutely be buying now. And guess what? I was absolutely right. Even during COVID, when there was real panic, I said to my students, look guys, if you know what you're doing, secure some great deals. And there was a very small window to do that before prices absolutely shot up. So I've been looking at the property market, actively investing for 30 years. And I can tell you, this is really bad news for many landlords. But if you know what you're doing, actually, I don't think it's as bad as many people think. Oh, and by the way, if you want to know exactly what the implications are of the Renters' Rights Act, I'm doing some free online training with Paul Champlina, who's the founder of Landlord Action. And you might know him from the Channel 5 hit program, Slum Landlords and Nightmare Tenants. We are doing a live online training explaining exactly what's involved in the Renters' Rights Act and what you need to do to protect yourself and also prepare. There's going to be a link below this video. Come and click on that and make sure you listen in to make sure you are ready. Now, there are lots of landlords who are saying, you know what, I am just fed up, I want to get out. And actually, in January 2026, we saw more properties come to the market than any other month in the last decade. That says something, right? That says lots of landlords are panicking and want to get out. So what should you do? Should you be worried about the Renters' Rights Act? Well, there are certainly things in there like we can't do Section 21. A lot of people are worried about that. How do we get rid of bad tenants? Well, we can use Section 8. Now, there are a couple of things I think you should do. I'm going to give you some quick tips right now. If you have tenants, and what I'm doing is I am getting rent insurance. What that means is if a tenant stops paying and it takes you a long time to get them out on a Section 8, I want to make sure the insurance company is paying the mortgage for me every single month. So things like that you can do to certainly protect yourself. However, what I'm doing is I'm looking at some of the strategies that aren't affected by the Renters' Rights Act. One of those is serviced accommodation. Now, you might think, oh my God, I don't want to do service accommodation. That sounds like a lot of work. And by the way, yes, it can be a lot of work. It's absolutely a business. You don't really want to dabble at it. But guess what? I don't manage my properties myself, and I'm not about to start doing that with serviced accommodation. So I've got a company that I'm testing who are renting my property out to contractors, and I'm going to be doing some few videos on this channel all about that, how it's going to be really open and transparent, what's working, what's not working. It's going to be really high value for you to watch that. But the great thing about serviced accommodation is that you don't have tenants. Instead, you have guests staying in your property. And there's a big difference because it's not a permanent residence, they're not tenants, so they are not affected by the Renters' Rights Act. They don't have the rights that a normal tenant would have. Basically, they're on a license. If they don't pay, you can get them out. In fact, you could get the police to come along who will remove someone from your property. They're not going to do that if they're a normal tenant. I mean, good luck with that. If you call the police, a tenant who's causing problems or not paying, they can say, sorry, we can't get involved. Whereas in serviced accommodation, if they're not paying, staying in property, the police can actually evict them for you. So there are some big differences like that, as well as some of the tax benefits you get when you're doing serviced accommodation, because it's seen as a separate business, it's not a normal rental, and so guess what? It's not affected by Section 24, which is another reason why many people are leaving the property market. Just in case you don't know, Section 24 was the regulations that came in April 2017, all about the way that we as property investors are taxed. Prior to that, it was always best to own property in your own name for many tax reasons. And if you own property in your own name and you had a mortgage, which most investors do, and you're a higher rate taxpayer, now because of Section 24, you're paying a lot more tax because you're not allowed to offset all of your interest against your rental income to reduce the profit. It's crazy, really. It's totally unfair. It's the only business in the UK where you're not allowed to offset some of your legitimate costs against the income to reduce the tax. So it's a very unfair policy, but unfortunately, that's the rules. If we want to be in the property game, we have to abide by the rules. So, one of the things you can do if you're worried about the Renters' Rights Act is look at strategies such as serviced accommodation that are not affected. The other thing you can do is maybe you could rent some of your properties to some charities, to registered social landlords who, again, they don't have tenants on AST contracts. Or by the way, the contract we have in England is assured short-term tenancy. That's changing to an assured periodic tenancy because now tenants have a contract pretty much for 2 months. It's a rolling contract. So it's much easier for them to get up and move if they want to move. We have to give 3 months notice if we want to get a tenant out of the property. So it very much has gone into the favour of tenants, and that's why many landlords think it's not fair, it's not worth it doing anymore. One of the big things that's causing a lot of concern, from the 1st of April, there are going to be rent repayment orders, which could be 24 months. What that means is if you've not followed all the regulations and ticked all the boxes as you should, and by the way, you should be a good landlord, you should do everything you should do and you need to do, but if you've not done that, the tenant can go back and could claim up to 24 months of rent paid back to you. Now, this sounds pretty bad, right? At the moment, there's 12-month repayment order, and you probably saw the news last year, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, actually moved out of her home, moved into number 11 Downing Street, and her and her husband decided to rent their home out. Now, unfortunately, they didn't do everything they needed to do. They should have registered the property with the local council because the council wants selective licenses, and many councils do this because it's a way of, frankly, raising revenue for the councils who are pretty much all broke. She didn't do that, unfortunately, and so her tenant can claim 12 months of rent. If that was post 1st of May that had happened, they would be able to claim up to 24 months of rent. Now, to be fair to Rachel Reeves, I don't think that tenant had any discomfort or any inconvenience, the fact there wasn't a license in place. So you kind of think it's a bit harsh, really, but that's the regulations. You need to understand the regulations and make sure you're following them. Now, I believe if you understand what's coming and you follow the regulations, you should be okay. However, there still will be bad tenants, professional bad tenants, who deliberately seek out landlords who don't really know what they're doing. And unfortunately, ignorance is not an excuse, it's not a reason to let you off, who don't know what they're doing. And those will be preyed on, I believe, and that's a strong word, but preyed on by no fee, no win solicitors who will say to tenants, hey, if your landlord has not done everything by the book, you could get up to 24 months rent back. Now, I'm sure a lot of people will find that very attractive and want to take that up. So make sure that you know what's happening, make sure you know what you need to do. And if you use a letting agent to manage your property, which I do because I don't really want to deal with tenants, you need to make sure your letting agent is fully up to speed and aware of what's going on. You might want to ask your agent, what are they doing? What changes are they making? What safeguards are they making to make sure they bring the right kind of tenants in? Things like, I'm putting rent guaranteed insurance in place, so if the tenant can't pay the rent, I'm getting the rent coming through. I'm suggesting that when we're vetting tenants, and obviously we can decide who comes into our property, we're not allowed to discriminate, but we can have some choice if there's lots of tenants wanting to move in. And by the way, because there is a general high demand for accommodation in the UK, most properties have multiple people applying to be tenants. So of course you're going to pick the people who are the best tenants. I'm asking my letting agents to Google those potential tenants, to look on their social media, see if there's any clues of maybe why we don't particularly want to have them in our properties. So you can't discriminate, but you can absolutely choose who you want to come in based on who you think is going to be the best tenant in your property. So this is a big thing happening. You need to know what's happening. If you want to understand more details about the implications, click on the link below to come and join the free online training, the extended interview that I'm doing with Paul Champlina. I think you'll find that very beneficial. And whatever you do, please make sure that you are prepared and protected. At the end of the day, as landlords, we're providing good quality accommodation to our tenants. We want to make it affordable, but unfortunately, there are some bad tenants out there, and there are some bad landlords as well. But if you ask someone like Paul, who's on the coalface, he'll say, actually, there are far more bad tenants than there are bad landlords. But unfortunately, the press like to pick up on bad landlords, make that that sells newspapers, right? And landlords, unfortunately, there's a few haters. In fact, I'm sure there's some people watching this video who are probably landlord haters, who'll probably come into the comments and say, landlord serves you right, etc. Guess what, tenants? You have to be very careful what you ask for. This improved legislation, I believe, unfortunately, it's tenants who are going to lose from this, because if you think about all the landlords who are leaving the market, and some of those properties will be acquired by people like me who recognise it's a great time to buy, some will be purchased by families, first-time buyers, etc. But there might be less rental stock available, which means a lower supply, which means supply and demand dictates rents are going to go up. Now, one of the things that's come from the Renters' Rights Act is landlords are only allowed to put up rents once a year by the amount of inflation. Now, I've been investing for 30 years. I've helped thousands and thousands of people become successful investors. And I can absolutely guarantee you the vast majority of landlords do not, in the past, put their rent up every year. The reason is you've got a good tenant, you want to look after them, you want to keep them in the property. If you put the rent up too much, they might move out, which means you can have void periods, cost of finding new tenants. And if you've got a good tenant, much rather hold those than have the uncertainty of someone who's new and may not be so good. So that means most landlords do not put their rents up. However, now this new legislation has come in, I'm pretty sure most landlords will put their rent up every single year by inflation. So rents are going to go up more than they have historically. So unfortunately, it's going to be harder for tenants. And those vulnerable tenants who are maybe not so good with the money, don't have such a good track record, I think they're going to find it even harder to find somewhere to live. So unfortunately, this legislation where the Labour government have massively overstepped the mark, I think tenants are people who are ultimately going to suffer because of this. So, to summarize this video, you need to know what you're doing. Get yourself onto the free online training myself and Paul Champolina to get a much better idea of what you actually need to do. Check your letting agents, if you use letting agents, are completely up to speed and know what they need to do. And finally, maybe look at alternative strategies like serviced accommodation, where actually Renters' Rights Act is not important because you don't have tenants, you have guests. I do hope this video has been useful for you. Please like it. Come and comment below. What do you think about the Renters' Rights Act? Either you're a tenant or a landlord. I'd love to know your opinion. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to make sure you're notified anytime a new video comes out. Until the next video, I encourage you to invest with knowledge, invest with skill.